Liberal Currents presents Half the Answer with your hosts, Caitlin M. Green and Trent R. Nelson.
Well, happy days are here again. I've started saying it nicely for you, Trent, because I love you. And this is Half the Answer, where understanding a question is half the answer. I'm one of your co-hosts, Caitlin Green. I'm a linguist. I finally successfully made a doll, so let's clap for me. Hooray for me. She doesn't have hair or a face, so maybe limit your clapping. But at least her head is the right shape and size for her body. And with me is Trent, who is a historian, philosopher. We write and edit for Liberal Currents, and here we are. Who have you brought me, Trent? I'm really, really excited.
Well, first of all, Caitlin, I love you too. Second of all, dolls are dolls, even if they don't have hair or faces. You just ask any of the young toddlers of the world. And third, well, we've got a really, really special guest. I've been looking forward to this for a long while. His name is Jonathan M. Katz. Well, he does so many things. He writes the Racket newsletter, and you can find him on Blue Sky. You can find him all over the place. He loves to give a thought. He's got many of them. He's written several down into large tomes. One is Gangsters of Capitalism, and The Big Truck That Went By. That's another one. Well, sir, I think we have a third one coming out, but we'll get to that a little later, maybe. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, it's a beautiful
Jonathan
day to have a
M.
beautiful
Katz.
day. Yes.
Is your middle name Mariah too?
It's Meyerson, but
Dang it.
You can fill in the blank with anything you
Jonathan
like.
Yes.
Mariah Katz. Great.
We love that. Jonathan, well, thank you so much for coming on. Today, Caitlin, I thought that we would talk about, well, gangsters of capitalism. And it's funny that Jonathan wrote a book called That's Why We Had Him On. But that book happens a long time ago. And yet today in 2025, well, it seems fairly relevant to the whole ongoing circumstance happening in America. We got a gangster type of president. At the end of John Ganz's book, When the Clock Broke, if I remember properly, there's a scene where Trump is in the vehicle and the person says to him, you'd be a great Don, and he goes, the best. There is this sort of...
right there in the name.
It is right there in the name, right? Well, Jonathan, for those who've listened or watched the program, I usually ask the person to give a better biography than I gave. And then I'd love for us to sort of get into what your book was about and what was the inspiration for it. And then we're going to leap up to why it's so relevant right now.
Yeah, it's disturbingly relevant. So usually as an author, you want your book to be relevant, but I'm actually a little...
Right.
It could be a little less relevant, honestly. I'm a journalist mostly by training. I started working for the Associated Press for a number of years. And then I left in 2012 to write my first book, which was The Big Truck That Went By, about the Haiti earthquake. I was the AP bureau chief in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, when the earthquake struck in 2010, which was what that book was about. And I've been freelancing ever since for basically anywhere that you can name. And as you mentioned, I have a newsletter now, which is my primary journalistic outlet these days. That and TikTok. It's theracket.news is my newsletter, and I'm Cats on Earth on TikTok. But I started writing gangsters in 2016 because I knew that there was all of this history of American imperialism in the world that played an enormous role in the way that people in places that we acted imperially understand the world, conduct their lives, conduct their government policies in ways large and small, but that Americans have absolutely no idea what happened. Haiti was one of the big places that I encountered this. The United States occupied Haiti from 1915 to 1934, and really has sort of remained kind of in an on and off occupation-ish role ever since, in ways both formal and informal. But there are a lot of other parts of the world as well. And the book is structured really as a biography of Smedley Butler, who, in addition to having a terrific name,
Just the best.
his middle name was Darlington, by the way. Which is
No, come on.
How could it not be? Yeah, of course.
Smedley,
Darlington Butler.
Smedley Mariah Butler.
Yeah. That's all the best
Butler.
names are.
Smedley Darlington Butler. He was a Marine and a Quaker, and twice the recipient of the Medal of Honor. Played an enormous role in all of these occupations. He was involved in every overseas occupation, invasion, war that the United States conducted from 1898 until the eve of World War II. Left the Marines in the early 1930s, but then became an anti-war and anti-imperialist activist. And is a fascinating figure who, among other things, blew the whistle on a fascist plot to overthrow Franklin Delano Roosevelt and replace him with a fascist dictator in 1934. He's forgotten in most of the world for a whole bunch of reasons that we can talk about, but his memory has kind of shattered kaleidoscopically, I think is the word that I use in Gangsters, because there's different pieces of Butler like all over. And one of the ways that, so I'm talking about like the way that like Haitians, for instance, remember American imperialism,
Right.
in episodes that Americans have no idea, insofar as Haitians remember Smedley Butler. And certainly, academics, writers, there's a famous work of fiction based on about the critiquing the American occupation written toward the end of the occupation, and the main Marine villain in it is named Smedley. So there's a lot of memory of that, but they remember him as being evil. Like they remember him as being, literally they called him the devil, méchant, evil in Creole. And in America, insofar as he's remembered, he tends to be remembered by either Marines who know him for the 2 Medals of Honor, which is a rare distinction, or people know him because of the business plot, because he blew the whistle on this coup, and so he's sort of become a beloved totem of conspiracy theorists as well. And so there's all these different Smedleys in the world. Just as we all have different personas in the world, and the United States has a lot of different personas in the world, and he kind of fills in for that. So the way I wrote the book, like I said, it was effectively structured as a biography, because it's just effectively cradle to grave, or really joining the Marines to grave of Smedley Butler, but interpolated in all of these episodes, I went to the countries where, or in some cases back to the countries where Smedley and his generation of Marines had operated, to look on the ground at the ways that people in those places remember these things that Americans have actively forgotten.
And you went all over. If I remember properly, you were in Haiti, you went to the Philippines?
Yep.
You were in China?
Yes.
Yeah, thankfully the old memory works.
Nicaragua, Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
Panama, Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting a couple, but so a whole bunch.
Yeah,
Mexico, because I had been based in Mexico during the drug wars in 2011.
Right. And he was there. He was in Tampico. It's
well, Tampico and Veracruz. But
yeah.
His action was more in Veracruz than Tampico. If we're going to be super,
let's do it.
I want us to be.
get into
Yes,
it.
absolutely. So this book recounts not only Smedley's life, but of course the American process going across all of these places. And in the book, you found, as you noted, that we are not remembered so well. As Professor Durant used to say, a man is many men to many different people, as is a country. Well, now that's 115, 110, 120 years ago. It's 2025, sir. And well, you look around and it appears as though we're still on that same path. We're still being remembered, interestingly, to say the least.
We're not universally beloved and admired, Trent. You heard this? I am hearing this just now for the first time.
They only hate us for our freedom.
Right.
Oh yeah, it's for our freedom. That makes me feel better and more warlike. So
they hate us because they ain't us. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
That's it. I'm willing to let my tax money go to another bomber. That's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you don't even have to, because they've already got the money and it's already going to blow
They'll
up
just
a
appropriate
fishing
it.
boat.
Apparently, they don't need any. Yeah, they don't need any
Yeah.
permission or anything.
No. Nah, that blow up fishing boats, that is the American dream. So, sir,
Yeah.
what are you seeing today that is reminiscent of what you wrote in 2016?
I mean, where to end? I mean, just to connect the two. Part of the reason why these things are still remembered is because they remain relevant, because the United States kept doing things like we never stopped. Like
Right.
Butler dies in 1940 at the beginning of World War II. World War II is happening in Europe. France surrenders to Germany the next day, and then the U.S. enters the war a year later. But and obviously, there's a lot of things that you can say about World War II. It's a little bit of a break from sort of like the colonialism part of empire, although not entirely. But then we get right back into it immediately. And that's a big part of the reason why this stuff isn't forgotten. And it's always interesting to think about, like, oh yeah, well, this is so long ago, Spanish-American War starts in 1898, like he's in China in 1900 and the 1920s. But you look around the United States, it's like the Civil War was even longer ago. You think that's irrelevant?
Right.
Like the American Revolution, like, people like constantly referencing the founding fathers and the deeper. This history is as useful as you want it to be, and it kind of doesn't even really matter. I mean, you look at the Middle East, and like people are arguing about things that happened or didn't happen 2,000-3,000 years ago, right? So it's at a remove, but it's actually not that removed. And there are people, I was talking to people as I was researching gangsters who had met Smedley Butler, right? So like it's not that long ago, really. They were very old when I met them. They were very young when they met him. But like,
Still,
it's not that long ago. So part of understanding what's happening now, and one of the things that I wanted to do is understand how we got to where we are, and like, and it's not to sometimes you get into the dangerous ground of acting like, or people thinking that you're justifying things that are happening now, right? Like, it's okay that we're just like blowing up boats for no reason, or no justified reason, with no due process, etc., in the Caribbean and also the Eastern Pacific, which is funny. It's not funny that he's blowing them up, but the fact that it's also that they're actually moving into the Eastern Pacific is notable, because this is also part of the growing war machine that may be invading Venezuela any day, or never, or right now. It's unclear when or if it's going to happen, although there's a lot of hardware in the neighborhood. But American military hardware that's gone into the Caribbean. But the irony of blowing up boats in the Eastern Pacific is Venezuela doesn't have a Pacific coast, because one of the Trump administration's big justifications for this war, or this buildup, is that Venezuela is this drug trafficking capital that is flooding the country, the United States, with fentanyl. But the problems with that are, one, Venezuela doesn't produce any fentanyl, and two, also fentanyl doesn't come on illegal boats. It comes through legal ports of entry most often. But also the Caribbean itself, like writ large, doesn't represent an enormous percentage of any kind of drug. It's mostly cocaine that comes on these boats, and it's about 14% of the cocaine that travels, through the Americas, goes through the Caribbean. The vast majority now goes through the Eastern Pacific, so on the Pacific side of Central America and Mexico, coming off of the Pacific coast of Colombia, and also still overland in Mexico. And so the fact that they are blowing up boats nowhere near, not even in a contiguous body of water with Venezuela. You have to go through the Panama Canal, speaking of American imperialism, in order to get there. And these boats aren't going through the Panama Canal like this. It just shows that this is nonsense. But it is also important to understand that, we have been here before. This comes from a long tradition in America of doing stuff like this. And it also comes from a long tradition of, is specifically talking about Latin America and the way that people are reacting to it in Latin America. They have a long experience, generational experience of being on the receiving end of this. And so they're going to react to it in ways that are only intelligible if you understand, if everyone sort of at least has the same hymnal that they're at least referencing. You don't all have to be singing from it, but everyone needs to know this basic history. And so what I was going to say is that, like, you know, sometimes you get into a situation where it seems like it's a way to defend Trump or defend, you know, Trump's foreign policy and say, well, this is nothing new. In fact, the United States has done things like this before. In fact, the United States has done things up to this moment in this area worse than this before. But it's not. It's that Trump is exemplifying the worst aspects of American history, the worst tendencies of American history, and has been able to get away with it in large part because Americans are just we constantly are born yesterday. We constantly have to re-remember and then re-forget all of these things that happened before so that we can recognize them as they're happening in real time.
That's so good.
Isn't it interesting that that being told that we've done things akin to what we're doing now generates the response of, oh, he's saying it's okay, as opposed to, oh, he's highlighting the fact that we keep doing bad things generationally, right?
Like, it would be so great if we stopped. Like, we're not saying keep doing.
Right, but that sort of permissibility that I think gives some insight into what you're saying, into the sort of born yesterday thing. It's easy to maintain this sort of ho-hum, like, I guess everything's fine if we were born yesterday. Knowing things, it complicates our happy lives.
So much of these debates, so much of these conversations are affective. They're based on how, not what the information is, but how the information makes us feel and how the information makes us feel about ourselves. I mean, I saw this morning, right before we started talking, a couple of Democratic lawmakers made a video basically calling on, they were all former service members, or I think in the case of Elise Slotkin, CIA. And they're calling on American troops not to obey illegal orders, which is also, by the way, an important thing, and it has been a longstanding tradition in the military. Right. Well, there's two longstanding traditions. One is having illegal orders and carrying them out, and then there's also some people defying them or blowing the whistle on them. But and then Trump responded literally that this is seditious treason and that the punishment is death.
He posted seditious behavior, punishable by, all caps, death, ! And then he also said, like, hang them, George Washington would, right?
Oh, really? I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So he's just out openly calling for the death of Democratic lawmakers, opposition lawmakers. Great. So that's new. So cool. That's just, if there are precedents for that, but in terms of American, I just want to go on record saying that one's new. But the reason I was referencing that video in my mind is because at the end of it, I think it's Mark Kelly, who's former Navy astronaut, Arizona. Yes. He says, like, it's either, I forget if it's a positive or a negative statement, but it's either this is not who we are or this is who we are. I think he says this is who we are. I think it's a positive statement. And that is so much, like, Americans are just like, we're just eternally in our feelings about, are we good? Are we good?
Yeah, the national identity is all bound up in, like, justice and freedom, and, like, a lot of times something awful will happen and people will be like, that's not the America I know.
Right.
Like,
what America do you know?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, I get it. I get it. But I also like, it's very hard as somebody who, is a journalist, historian, like, to have conversations with this and then just have people constantly retreating to being in their feelings and being like, well, that couldn't have happened because that would mean we're bad people. And
Oh,
like
sure. Yeah. And that big fireball in the sky is called the sun, and it's supposed to
exactly,
be there.
exactly. And it's like yeah, we're good, we're bad. It's like, but that's, you know, and it's also, I mean, it's important to understand. I mean, Smedley Butler got into the Marines. He volunteered. He lied about his age at 16 and joined the Marines to fight against imperialism in Cuba, because there were all these horrific stories of what the Spanish were doing to the Cubans during these Cuban Wars of Independence. And this is the final Cuban War of Independence, the one that started 3 years before this in 1895. And among other things, the Spanish, they were employing torture. They invented concentration camps in Cuba at that moment. They call it reconcentración, but like they you know, got peasants, forced them into like, you know, barbed wire surrounded cities, guarded them, shot people if they tried to leave. They were doing horrible stuff. And he came in and he imagined himself as sort of living out American ideals as he understood them, especially going back to the revolution, of being against tyranny, being for democracy, being for the little guy. He came to it in a sort of racist way, more than a sort of racist way. He talked about, you know, shouldering a rifle to free little Cuba, which is how a lot of Americans thought about it. And then were very confused when they got there, and the Cubans, many of whom were darker skinned or Afro-Cuban, were much more better trained and more experienced in war than the Americans, who were supposedly coming to save them, and really ended up saving the Americans a lot
Almost
of
like they'd had a whole history up until that point.
almost like they're actually fully formed people with bad aspects of themselves.
Who'd like lived in a country on an island for
Exactly. And that's, so he got into it, and then he ends up becoming so sort of high on that supply of America is great, and being a Marine is great, and whatever I'm ordered to do is inherently great because America is great. He then ends up in his very next, you know, I mean, Cuba takes a turn in that direction as well. And the first place he operates, by the way, again, is Guantanamo, speaking of things that America has done that are not and continue to not be great. And then he goes to the Philippines, which the United States is conquering as a colony. And so within the space of effectively a year, he has gone from joining a war to end imperialism, or to fight against tyranny, to participating in a war to colonize islands on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And by the way, in terms of this affectiveness, it also goes in the other direction. And sometimes people, you know, especially on the left, read Gangsters and are sort of annoyed with me that, like, I, you know, say critical things about Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua, about Xi Jinping's regime, the Communist Party of China's, you know, one-party state in China. But the thing is that you can't understand these things without understanding that, like, we're all complicated, and people do, the same person can be a good person in this sense and do good things in this area, and then also do bad things or live long enough to become the thing that they hated, right? All of these things are us. And so, yeah, it's just, yeah, I mean, I understand rhetorically, like, why Mark Kelly would be like, you know, we have
this
to be,
is an S, yeah.
like, I have to appeal to this. I have to appeal to this, you know, deep-seated sense of ego and self in order to get people to do the right thing. I
to, like, remind people of their values, inspire them to act on them. Like, that's all
exactly
good.
Yeah. But if we're actually going to, like, think about this analytically, if we're actually going to, like, look at this and understand, like, what the world actually is and how the world actually works, you kind of have to let that go. You kind of have to,
Absolutely.
If we did that, though, we would have to be taking a lot of accountability for a lot of stuff, which could take a while. But I think we fall into this kind of logic of, like, good guy, bad guy logic. I often call it, like, Harry Potter disease, which is like, oh, if a good guy does it, then it's okay. And if a bad guy does it, then it's bad, right? Like, you can't tell Hermione that she's ugly, but I can tell Dudley that he's ugly for as long as I want and as nastily as I want, because I'm the good guy. And like, we very much fall into that with America too. Like, well, I mean, if we did it, it was for a good reason, right? Like, they must have been really bad.
We do it just in general. It's not, we do it with countries where countries are good or countries are bad, or we were good or we were bad. We do it with individuals as well. Everyone climbs on to the internet every day to state that, like, this guy is the worst person ever, or this person is great and we love them. And it's just unrealistic because, as you noted, John, we're all just made up of particles, and sometimes we do good things and sometimes we do bad things, and sometimes we're happy and sometimes we're sad, and sometimes we have to do better, and that's just a part of it. And yet
That's right.
it's difficult, I think, for individuals to reconcile that, and I think that's why Mark Kelly and politicians go on this thing. But we have to sort of refigure out how to position them to understand better and to not lose hope that just because we've subjugated countries across decades, that doesn't mean that that's in stone, that we have to do it forevermore.
That's right.
We can change whenever we want.
That's right. And like one of the
accountability.
Exactly. And one of the big things that I've been engaged with over the last couple of years, as a lot of people have, has been Israel and Gaza and the genocide.
Yes.
And that's another, perfect example of this, because, you look at Israel and, I'm Jewish. I grew up in a family that was, just unreflectively Zionist, liberal Zionist, but Zionist. And the way they understood Israel was based on, these are people who are fleeing oppression, right? The founders of the state had been fleeing oppression in turn of the century Europe. And then there's a huge population boost from refugees from the Holocaust, who people forget this, but after the Holocaust doesn't just end and then everybody, goes about their lives. The displaced persons, who were basically the Holocaust survivors, 250,000 Jews were like trapped in new concentration camps run by the Allies for years, had nowhere to go, and they end up in Israel. And people are just sort of like, and if you stop it there, right, very clearly in that story, Nazis are bad guys, the ultimate bad guys, and their victims are thus the good guys. And they're survivors, and they came and they survived, and now they live in this state. So everything that the state does from then on is good and noble and built out of this dichotomy. Except,
and it's for their survival,
exactly. Except, no. Anything works.
Actually, not everything they do is. I remember being a little kid and learning about like the Holocaust, and the impression that I got growing up in America was the war ended, and then Ellis Island, Island, and so many, and the boats, and they came, and then the refugees. And like later on, when I learned that we fought tooth and nail to like not take refugees, and that they truly were like stateless for so long, just stuck in these camps, trying to, like, everybody's fighting about, well, we can't take anymore, like all of that stuff made me so mad, partly because it was so counter to what I thought was true, right?
That's right. And then in order to taking it from the other side, right? This is what I do, right? And I just live in an endless house of mirrors.
But look at it this way.
Taking it from the other side, people who are critical, rightly, right, of the horrible atrocities that they've committed genocide. They are starving the people of Gaza. They have done horrific things to the Palestinian people going back to and before 1948.
Absolutely.
And often, and in many cases, it's literally sometimes the same people. Like people got out of the camp, the concentration camp, got on the boat, got off the boat. I went to a Holocaust museum not long ago, and there was an oral history with a survivor from a couple decades ago, and he talked about how he had survived the camp, he survives the DP camp, he gets off the boat in Haifa, and they put a gun in his hand, and
you're a camp guard,
right? And then one of the things that people do is, if they're critical of Zionism or the state of Israel, then they'll say, well, so they must just be making up all that stuff that came before, right? Maybe there wasn't a Holocaust, or maybe it wasn't as bad as they say it was, or maybe they deserved it. Maybe these people were bad back then too. And it's like, again, no, that's not how it works. Like people, people have different motivations and
Yeah.
operate in different information environments. And this guy, I don't know who this guy is, but like maybe he was a schmuck when he was in the camp too. I have no idea. But
Right.
like
They existed,
he certainly went through a lot of trauma, right? You can say
Yeah.
that in a moment. And he gets there and they put a gun in his hand and they go like, that guy's trying to kill you now. Go shoot that guy. You can't blame him for
Right.
being like, okay, he's already been through a lot.
I'm finally safe after all this trauma and all this horror.
That's right.
If this is what it takes, then okay, right? Yeah. I think that's what I love about Mouse so much, the Art Spiegelman graphic novel, right? Because it's kind of about that like this kind of huge global trauma doesn't make you a saint. It actually does fuck up your brain.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't make you a wonderful person for the rest of your life, even though you went through something that nobody should have to go through.
That's right.
But to your point, Jonathan, not only will they deny like the immediate things, but before World War II, during World War II, but I've had people come to me and be like, "Oh, like they've been saying this forever, right? Like the pogroms, like this is just their like eternal excuse. There always be." And I'm like, "Bro, like that shit all happened."
Yeah.
How about you try it? Like, how about you try, going through generationally, the Spanish Inquisition and then like, the pogroms in Russia and like just like thing after thing after thing. Every generation it feels like there's something.
That's
and
right.
like, how about you be cool about it?
That's right. That's right. I mean, and people do, and again, people respond to traumas differently. It's also not right to say that just because you went through trauma means that you then have to inflict trauma on other people. Many people go through trauma. They either, with the help with professional help or the help of religious or moral traditions, or just on their own, they come to the complete opposite
Yes.
conclusion, which is this horrible thing happened to me, and thus this horrible thing should never happen to anyone else.
Right.
And in fact,
Yeah.
even though
There's a lot of them.
yeah, because I was lucky enough to survive this, I'm now going to put my body on the line to protect people in this other circumstance.
Yeah.
So both those things are true. But yeah, I mean, like
So spoilers for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, but that is one of the themes that he like injected into the movie, right? Which is like someone has to stand up and say, actually, here and no further, right? No further traumas are going to be inflicted.
Yeah. But to your point, Jonathan, again, Professor Durant used to say, trauma either causes the individual to become more callous or bitter, or to become more warm and caring, right? Because it is that response. It's either this happened to me and now I have to deal with these consequences for the rest of my life, or it's this happened to me and I can't allow this to happen to anybody else.
Right.
This was the worst thing imaginable. And that sort of brings us in so many ways to today, because we are watching a country, we are part of a country grappling with this very essence right now. Do we stand up for those who are being impacted, even though we're not being impacted? It sounds like an old German poem to me. Or do
Isn't
we just
it so fun? That feeling of being in a car that's like out of control, but you can't get to the steering wheel. Like that's just like our lives every day, that you're like, somebody needs to stop this car.
Yeah. And you're yelling and you're pointing out and you're saying there is a crag in the earth. We're going to fall into the earth if we do not stop. Right. And they're just like, nope.
This is why I hold on to my whistle, my ice whistle, like it's a totem. Like I'm not superstitious, but I'm like, it's like in my pocket all the time, because I'm like, I have this. I don't have the steering wheel, but I have this. My stupid little 3D printed whistle.
That's right.
She's a little stitious, not superstitious.
And in Gangsters, and in life in general, like I make use of, there's a lot of theorists who wrote about this stuff. A lot of them either came themselves directly out of the experience of the Holocaust or out of experiences of colonialism. Aimé Césaire, Frantz Fanon, Albert Memmi, Hannah Arendt, Jean Amery. They're all these guys and women who went through this, and they understand that, as Césaire puts it, that the experience of brutalizing other people is the experience of brutalizing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And this creates, and one of the things that these guys did was they go back in history, not very far for them, and they see specifically, they're trying to kind of figure out, like, whether these Nazis, like, where do these Nazis come from? And the answer they come to is they came out of colonialism. They came out of this experience of colonizing other parts of the world, which hardened them. It becomes a traumatic experience for the traumatizer.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then they start employing it against people in their own countries. And a lot of them, I mean, in the case of fascisms, you often see people who were sort of on the losing side of the winning end of the colonial structures, right? You have, Hitler, he's a young soldier at the Battle of Ypres, who's on the receiving end of chemical warfare in World War I. Much of his unit is wiped out.
Yep.
You've got, and he just sort of just feels that, like, the world's been unfair to him. He didn't get into he didn't get as far as an artist as he
didn't get into art school.
Yeah, he's from he's from Austria. He's from this this imperial capital, and Austria is looked down on by Germany, and so that, and then that kind of makes him want to be, because he's not German, but he makes him want to be German because, like, it's like Austria has this, like, long tradition of, like, being, like, the heart of the Holy Roman Empire. And then the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and it's like this great and powerful, important thing. And now it's this, like, bastard stepchild of Germany, which is a country that hadn't even existed 100 years before this. And he's like, well, I want to be that. I want to be on the winning side of the winning side. Right. And he has this enormous amount of resources that he can draw from, of Germans who have either experience in the genocides against, like, the Herero and other people in German Southwest Africa, what's now Namibia, and German East Africa, and having the trauma of having lost World War I, which is just a war between empires who just can't decide who gets to be the best empire. Effectively, is what happened there. And his answer to that is, I'm going to take all of these aspects of colonialism that Germans have been doing to other people, and that other people have been doing to Germans and to Austrians, and I'm going to start doing them to people here at home. Yeah. I'm going to take these things that happen overseas. That the way that colonialism worked was the only way that you could justify to yourself, I'm going to conquer this territory, take all of the resources that these people have been using before I get here, erase their language, erase them as need be, is if I subscribe to these logics of racism and ethnic and racial and linguistic and cultural superiority, that effectively these are not people. And I'm going to do that to my political opposition here, to the people who want to stop me from making Germany great again. Yeah. And this is known as it becomes known as the imperial boomerang. This comes through Foucault, but and Arendt's formulations of it. And the idea is that basically, you throw the boomerang out there, and it comes back and hits you.
Right.
And it's what we're seeing right now. This is as predictable as predictable can be.
Yeah. Is it any surprise that, like, given how much practice we have dehumanizing and devaluing other humans that like we might be super good at it actually at home.
Yeah, well, it's like how what people like Wendell Phillips used to say during the 19th century, that, as you noted, Jonathan, that these institutions, whether it's slavery or imperialism or fascisms, I like that you said fascisms, because we
Yeah.
say fascism as though it's like one static
Like
thing,
it's one type of thing.
yeah, as opposed to it really is fascisms.
Yeah.
Fascism, each nation develops its own. Each nation develops its own of anything based on the cultural points that it derives from, right?
I was going to do some ranting about AI slop and like general slopaganda, because I was just thinking about like, oh yeah, we all have our own type of fascism, right? Like our kind isn't the same as German fascism.
That's right.
And
No.
yet we're still copying their stupid art because this is the era of like, we can't develop our own aesthetic.
That's right.
Sorry, just to finish off, we trap ourselves in these
Yeah.
circumstances.
That's
When
right.
we put others to the knife, we are actually putting ourselves to the knife. When we but you hear it not only in historical discussions. You can go into your own community and you can speak to a corrections officer, and whether you like or dislike prisons or what they do or even them,
Yeah.
if you ask them about it, they will tell you that they are also serving sentences.
That's
Right. And so this is, and we see it. We see how behavior changes as people come into an institution like, say, the police or the military. They have, as you noted, Jonathan, these very high-minded ideas and ideals. And then they find themselves in the Philippines, right? They find themselves, involved in a shooting of an unarmed person. They find themselves in all of these situations that they'd never been in before. But
Yeah.
that's because in the mind, everything is how we like it. And in real life, things are not often how we like it.
That's right. And so we have this enormous population of people who were sent into wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Africa, different parts of Africa, and they were sent there, told in the imperialist logics that these people are trying to kill you. They're all trying to kill you. They're trying to kill you because you're here, and if they get through you, they're going to get your family. And it's because of who they are, and because of who you are, you need to stop them. And none of that turns out well, right? None of those wars fulfill any of their promises.
No.
There's no giant cache of WMDs found in Iraq. We don't leave behind a thriving democracy. 21 years in Afghanistan ends with the Taliban back in power, basically as if it was like September 10th,
Right.
2001. And they're mad. I mean, again,
I was going to say, with like an even more impoverished and traumatized and damaged society than they had before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, this is not everybody. Some people react to it. Some people are like, "This is horrible. I'm never going to let this happen to anyone else again." But then other people, and some people just like check out entirely. And then other people are like, but then there are people who are like, I was sent to harm these brown people. And I didn't get all the credit that I should have gotten. We didn't get all the glory that we should have gotten from it.
Yeah.
So something must have gone wrong. Maybe the brown people, the subaltern people, the Untermenschen, whatever, maybe they somehow snuck in and took the stuff that we were supposed to get. We didn't get the oil, right? That's Trump's explanation for how Iraq went wrong, right? That like if we just practice more straightforward resource extractive, it all would have turned out okay. I don't even know.
That'll fix it.
We have plenty of oil. What do you even talk? Like there's plenty of oil. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I look at all of those and I say to myself, we did not do a good job of helping people to develop their worlds. We went into these places and we committed violence and we did these things, but at no point, we invited subcontractors in from America. Everyone got lots of good money.
I was going to say, we dug like a lot of trenches.
That's
like
right.
I'm pretty sure we dug so many.
I always see that, and I said this as soon as it happened. I said, Ukraine wants to defend Ukraine worse than anything because Ukraine has developed something worth saving. And I mean, early on in the conflict, I remember reports, intelligence reports regarding, you know, Russian soldiers calling back to Russia on phones that they found, right? And being like, they got like really great refrigerators here. Like, you know, like they got paved roads everywhere,
Their
right?
appliances
Like,
are so nice.
right. And I think about that a lot, is, you know, a nation that feels as though it's worth fighting for and saving.
That's right.
That's the nation that fights and saves.
That's right.
And the nation that doesn't is the one that, as you noted, sir, gets re-abducted by the Taliban, just like it's September 10th.
Right.
And it's difficult for people to reconcile that, because I thought we were good. You know, like I thought we were good, and I thought that we were on a wholesome, altruistic mission. What went wrong?
Yeah, I did a newsletter. It must have been 2 years ago, probably the 20th anniversary of the Iraq War, and I titled it "The Wrongest War," and the point of it was that the one thing that everybody across the American political spectrum, with like one or two very minor examples, like Bret Stephens, it agrees on, is that the Iraq War was wrong. But no one can agree. There's not a consensus. There isn't even an attempt to construct a lattice work of interpretive meaning and understanding about what was wrong about it. Right. And this leaves open the possibility that, like Trump says, the problem is that we didn't take the oil. We didn't make enough profit out of it. Or that the problem is that we didn't stay long enough. Or the problem is we stayed too long. Or whatever, as opposed to, I mean, my answer is imperialism. Like, it was not, it was never going to be a productive thing. Like, best case scenario, you do like the Belgian Congo. Like, worst case scenario,
yay,
right? Worst case scenario, you do Vietnam. You go, you kill a bunch of people, and then at the end, you have very little to show for it. Right. Although Vietnamese-American relations are actually really interesting right now, because we're actually fairly close allies in a lot of ways. Yes. Having been to Vietnam as a tourist, it's in a lot of ways it's a very capitalist country in which there's a lot of interplay. So maybe the idea that we lost that war is a little bit oversold.
It was just longer than we thought.
Exactly, but yeah, I mean, and I think that's part of the issue, is that, like, because people don't have analytical frameworks, because people don't know this history, because people don't know that these things have happened before, that the United States is like, it's a special country. It's our country. There's a lot of things that are really interesting about it and historically significant. Absolutely. But it's just a country. We're just people. We're not different or better or worse than other people. There's American exceptionalism, which is just the United States is the greatest country that ever existed, and then there's kind of the inverse of American exceptionalism, that the United States is the most evil country that ever existed. None of those are true. We're just a country. We've done a lot of horrific things that there should be reparations for, that there should be great efforts made to restore. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But a lot of countries are like that. A lot of empires have been like that.
Belgium. You just mentioned Belgium. Yeah, Belgium.
That's a big one, right? And no one's other than people who are either from Congo, one of the Congos, or Rwanda. Oh no, Rwanda's German. It doesn't matter. One of the Congos, or have read Adam Hochschild's King Leopold's Ghost. Like, no one, everyone else is like, Belgium's nice. That's just they make the French fries and the beer. Like, what's the problem? Really, really super fucked up history.
Correct.
France, my God. I mean, I can spend all day having lived for years in Haiti and written about Haiti for years.
Right.
What a horrific place. The Germans looking at France and being like, these people are monsters. Like,
yeah.
I don't disagree with that entirely. Germans too, though. That's the problem. But the point is that I mean, I guess it just goes back to what we were saying. Like, it's it's understanding the ways in which we are embodying, inhabiting, continuing old patterns, old patterns of our own, and also patterns that have been expressed other places in the world. That's the way to understand how to get out of it. That Iraq is a just to use that as an example, the Iraq War is like, it's a unique crime. There are things that made it very much of its own moment, its own thing, but it's also part of this much larger trajectory of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so understanding where it went wrong, like, it helps to put it in context of all of these other moments in history where horrific things have happened. And then also to understand that if you send, thousands of young men mostly, and women in that case, and put them in horrific situations where they do things that violate their core moral principles. This is actually a medical thing. It's called moral injury. It's a real studied thing. People have, anybody who's in the military, I'm sure, knows about it. Like, you are out there, you do these horrible things, you are party to these horrible things, you don't stop horrible things from happening, or you don't do enough to stop them from happening, or whatever it is. And then you come back and you have damage. And then people then are then available, and you've got ICE out there saying on Spotify, cancel Spotify, by the way. I don't know if you're listening to this on Spotify, but like, don't listen to somewhere else.
I canceled my Spotify when they signed Joe Rogan. That was
Same,
when I was
actually.
done with them.
I use Tidal. I love Tidal. It's great. Not for a podcast, but for music, the sound quality.
I steal my dad's Apple Music.
That works. And I'm sure all these companies have other skeletons in their closet, but seriously, get out of Spotify.
Apple, don't make me get off of my dad's account,
But like, you have all these people come back and they listen to a Spotify ad, and it's like, here's a $50,000 bonus and all of your debt canceled, and you can go live out
to protect your country, protect your culture. Yeah.
You can go, the thing you thought you were going to do, you thought you were going out there to do whatever video game people were playing, Call of Duty. I don't know what it was. Probably that.
I think that's it. Yeah.
You thought you were the hero. You thought you were going to run the board on GoldenEye. And you didn't. You weren't the big hero. You actually feel really bad about the things that you did, but you don't know why, and you're still mad at the people who were there and who you did those things to. Here's some other people who either look like them or worship like them, or just remind you of them in some way, or you think are defending them. Like, you think these Democrats are like supporting like these like Islamic communist like stuff.
We have Noah Smith's Islamo-leftism now. Like
that was a name I thought we'd never say on this program.
I'm so sorry.
Yes. Nobody's exactly.
I'm so sorry we had to bring up Noah Smith, but yeah,
it's exactly that. And then you put this all together, and you put this with, the Great Replacement, right? Which is a neo-Nazi theory, effectively, originally. I mean, the Camp of the Saints, but like, this comes out of like a neo-Nazi.
Steve Bannon's favorite.
Yeah, like it's like you hit him with this worldview, and you're like, what you've got brown people from all over the world who want to take your stuff, and they hate you for your freedom, and they're coming to get you. And the people who are helping them come get you are leftists and Democrats, and they're trying to come get you through immigration, and it's somehow connected to the things that you were doing overseas, or that you read about overseas, or whatever. Right. Come here, be a hero, join this force, and mask up. Like you're in a video game, and then 3 seconds later, really, you find yourself like tackling a 15-year-old, like U.S. citizen in like Charlotte, North Carolina.
I'm gonna bring it up again. Out here in the Portland area, they held up teenagers at gunpoint twice in one day. twice in one day at a Dutch Brothers coffee. They were just working.
As a parent of young kids, the one that one of the, I mean, there's a million of these, but one of the ones that really stuck in my craw was the one in L.A. where they abducted the father and then drove off with the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's
then the
so
kid
scary.
back, like bruised and with like a dirty diaper.
Yeah.
It does make you want to break something. Like, it's so scary.
Really?
Yeah. When they use the child on the spectrum to like get the father. Yeah, I was about ready to
when they were out selling, they were selling like fruit, right? And he had just gone to the bathroom and they stopped him on his way to the bathroom.
Yeah. Insane.
Nightmarish.
And I mean,
nightmarish.
it's so hard to imagine. It's very hard for me to imagine being in a situation where you're doing things like that or party to things like that, and really saying to yourself and meaning it, like, I'm a good person, I'm doing the right thing here,
and that's why I'm driving away with this child. And like,
I'm driving away with this. It seems like a weird detail to harp on that the kid came back with like dirty and like.
No, but I get it. Yes, absolutely.
But it's also like,
that's dangerous.
It's so like the whole fucking thing. They kidnapped a child. That's the big thing that they should go away for a long time on that. But then also like you didn't even make an attempt to take care of this kid. You could like at least, I can like imagine, not that situation, right? Not in any way in that situation. But I can imagine a situation maybe in the heart of a war where like you find yourself, making a crazy choice at one moment and you drive away in a car and then you realize there's a kid in the back.
Like,
right?
oh my God, I have to fix this, right?
Right. And then at least then you would be like, well, at least I'll like clean him up before I take him back home. But like the fact that they didn't was like, it's like this kid this human isn't a human to them. And to look at a small child and say that this perfect little creature isn't human, isn't something that deserves care. Like that just shows how far gone these guys
and like
are.
how many drugstores, grocery stores, Targets, whatever, like Walmarts did they drive by where they could have gotten like a 12-pack of diapers for $10 and just like changed the damn kid.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. It's a lack of care. It's a lack of concern. I mean, I'm struck by, in my own mind, the dichotomy, right? On the one hand, it's a case of Charlie Brown and Lucy, right? Like we really want to kick that ball. We wanted to kick it when we went to Iraq.
Right.
They pulled it away from us. There are other people to blame, not Lucy.
We'll figure this out.
Yeah,
there will be someone.
But now look, the ball is returned, and I can kick it again. And it. But then at the same time, it as we noted earlier in this discussion, we are in the midst of like choosing time.
That's right.
We're a lot of things, right? Because we've also got like Mima and Raleigh with her shotgun, like holding off the ICE agents so that her gardeners could run away.
You can make a choice.
She kept their ladder in the garage for them so they wouldn't have to worry about it. And there's that too.
It's people like Mima that really shine the light on the whole rigmarole, right? We get focused on these little ones and we're like, oh, well, there are, reasons as to why a person, right? They come back, they want to do good, they think they do. But then you just see grandma out there like defending the gardeners and you're like, oh, no, there's always good people. There's always people who are like, this is fucked, and I'll hold them off while you run away.
But maybe
they thought Raleigh would. I think they thought Raleigh would let them get away with something, and Raleigh was like, "Oh no, we're quite scary, actually. Get ready."
maybe the question is not like who are you? Is who are you right now? Who are you in this moment? And you don't need to even necessarily worry about who are you going to be tomorrow. You don't need to necessarily worry about what have you done up until this point. But who are you right now?
Who are you going to be now? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in like Batman Begins territory, aren't we? It's like it's not who you are, it's what you do.
That's right. But it's like all of the choices that you have made in your life and that have been made for you have gotten you to this moment. You can't do anything about any of them now. But now here you are. You're confronting this thing. What are you going to do? Are you going to drive away with the kid? Are you going to tackle the grandmothers? Are you going to pepper ball, priests in the head? or are you gonna stand up for what at this moment you understand is right?
Well, that is the only you that exists.
That's right.
Is the
The one
this
right now.
moment
Yeah.
you? Yeah,
That's right.
the past yous, they existed at the time, but they no longer are relevant. You're not even that person anymore,
Yeah.
most likely. Right? That's a whole nother discussion. Is, you know, who the person was 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, we might not even be the same person as we were yesterday. Let
Yeah.
alone 10 years ago. It's
Yeah.
it's
And it takes a
absurd.
lot of energy to turn, to break inertia, right? It does. But you can at any point muster a burst of energy in a moment where it matters, right? Like just make it happen. Turn the car around. Oh my God. Give the toddler back.
And I mean,
Christ.
to take it back to Smedley Butler, like one of the reasons why he's such a compelling figure, why I spent so many years following his trail and writing a book about him, is because he is somebody who did horrible things. He did horrible things to people all over the world. He committed massacres. He overthrew a parliament in Haiti in order to ensure the smooth passage of a pro-American constitution, which allowed foreigners to own land in Haiti for the first time in Haiti's history. He, in many ways, the things that he did were, fascist or proto-fascist. Certainly, he committed, horrific crimes. In Veracruz, we were talking about in Mexico, when the Americans came ashore, we invaded Veracruz, by the way, in 1914. Not the only time that the Americans have invaded at Veracruz either.
I mean, we're sort of a little bit doing it now, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yes, he's definitely talking about, Trump's definitely talking about going to war in Mexico as
Yeah.
well. And what happens in Veracruz is it's the middle of the Mexican Revolution, which is a long period for those who don't know. And the Mexican troops, the federal troops that are in Veracruz at this point, they just pull back because they've got other things to worry about, and they're like, we're not going to be able to fight the Americans. But the Veracruzanos, the people who like live in Veracruz, which is effectively women, children, old men, they're like, well, this is our home. We're going to fight for it, and so they fight the Americans as they come ashore, and the Americans just slaughter them. And Smedley Butler is not only part of that, it is that action for which he wins his first Medal of Honor. And it is actually the most awarded battle in American history. More people who fought in that battle on the American side, yes, against effectively like women, children, civilians, old men,
we love that shit. We love that shit.
It's, I think, I mean, one of the interpretations of this, and this is an interpretation that I share, is that the military responded to this knowing that everybody who participated in it felt terrible about it. And we're just sort of like, we're just going to blind them with lucre. We're just going to throw medals at all of these guys so that they feel better about participating in what they participated in. Butler tries to give back that Medal of Honor. He says that there was nothing honorable in what I did. And he's informed in no uncertain terms by the Navy brass that you will take this medal and you will be proud of this medal.
You're
and
going to like it.
What you did in Veracruz, you say, I won the Medal of Honor. Yeah. But he then, it's through going through these processes. And, one of the things about Butler, people always ask me, like, at what moment did he change into an anti-war, anti-imperialist, and anti-fascist? And there's really not one moment. There are moments that are happening throughout this. And one of the things is that one of the big moments for him is in Nicaragua, 2 years before this. And he goes through these experiences and he talks to a bunch of people and he understands that, that the Americans are just there to support business interests, and they're just there to make money for American bankers and American mining companies that have interests in Nicaragua. And this is a really important moment. This is 2 years before Veracruz, and it's after Veracruz, and he feels horrible about Veracruz and tries to give away the Medal of Honor. That it's a year after Veracruz that he then takes a leading role in a massacre in Haiti, the massacre at Fort Riviere, against insurgents who were fighting against the coming American occupation. just slaughters them. The Americans are so much better armed than the Haitian Cacos, the Haitian insurgents, that it's barely a battle. It's just a massacre. They're just mowing people as they jump off the walls of this fort that the Americans then end up dynamiting. He then gets a second Medal of Honor for that. That's his second Medal of Honor. This is why he has two Medals of Honor. So none of these insights that he has had keep him from doing these things. But over the course of his career, one of the next times that he's at an inflection point where he really gets to make a decision, he is a general in China. The Americans are in China. It's the late 1920s. The Chinese Civil War. There's effectively like a pre-Civil War between warlords that they're there to intervene in, and then Butler is literally there on the ground when the Kuomintang, the Nationalist Party, splits into the nationalist and communist camps. I mean, they're already in these camps, but it's when the camps start fighting against each other. He literally, it's the day he gets to Shanghai, or the day after he gets to Shanghai, there's a massacre, and while he is in China, is the first time that he's a general in charge of troops who could be participating in a aggressive action, and he holds his troops back. And in fact, he makes a decision in a city called Tianjin to allow Chiang Kai-shek and the nationalists to basically pass through the outskirts of Tianjin without confronting them. And this ends up holding kind of all of the Allied forces, which at that point, by the way, include the Japanese, back. And the Japanese are engaged in their own fights against the nationalists. But this moment, if the Americans had gone forward and confronted the nationalists, then we could have gotten a Sino-Japanese war in 1927 instead of 1931 or 1937. So this is a moment where he makes this decision. And then his big thing is he comes back, he starts speaking publicly, he starts telling the truth about the things that the Americans have been doing overseas, insults Benito Mussolini and gets court-martialed for it by speaking out against fascism.
Oh my gosh.
He's an amazing guy. And it's at those points that he starts making these decisions. And then, I think the big one is, first of all, he's recruited to participate in this fascist coup against FDR, and instead of participating against it, he goes to Congress, testifies about it, announces it, and in so doing, diffuses it. And the second thing is that he then writes down his thoughts in a book called War is a Racket, where he talks about what war is and tries to inveigh against war. And so he's kind of he is a really key example of somebody who did horrible things.
Yeah.
In some ways makes amends for them, maybe not enough, but he in some ways makes amends for them. And then confronted with these other things, he's now, because of these horrible things he's done, he has all of these decorations, he has this status in American society. He is now in this place where he has to choose whether to go the route of fascism or to go the route of democracy, and he goes the route of democracy. Mm-hmm. And so he's just a perfect example of somebody who, it didn't matter what he had done before there to get to this place. He had a choice to make, and he made the right choice.
Which way, Western man?
You can always turn around. Yeah. Well, this is something that I've learned from listening to the podcast Controlled Pod into Terrain, which is about airline, like aviation disasters. I love this podcast so much. And they're always saying, like, you can always pull up and try your descent again. You can always, it is like, if ever you're in doubt, what you need to do is stop your landing, go around. Like, you can always turn it around. What you cannot do is fix a descent that's already fucked. Like, you've got to just like pull up, take a break, try again.
And words to think about. Well, sir, Jonathan M. Katz, you are supreme. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for, first of all, talking about your book. And of course, your book intersects so much with our lives, with what we're dealing with now. There's a lot to learn from history. All of our listeners and viewers, well, you should go pick it up. Go pick up The Big Truck That Went By as well. Jonathan, before we let you go, will you let our listeners and viewers know where they can find your books, they can find your newsletter, they can find your snark, they can find all of the fun things, and maybe even hint what you're doing in the future that you'll come back to talk about? Who knows?
Gangsters of Capitalism and The Big Truck That Went By are still available wherever you buy your books. I have a racket. I have a newsletter. I have a racket.
You running some kind of racket?
It's only slightly a joke. You can find it at theracket.news. I'm on Blue Sky at cats.theracket.news, and I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Cats on Earth. And the book that I'm working on right now is about fascism and free speech. It is specifically about the Skokie Nazi affair of 1977 and 78, which, if you have not heard of, you will soon.
That's right. Oh, I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you so much. Jonathan M. Katz, well, it's been a great pleasure. And for all of our viewers and listeners, well, you know that understanding a question is half of an answer. This is half the answer. And until next time.
Thanks for listening to Half the Answer, presented by Liberal Currents. You can find Half the Answer anywhere you get your podcasts. Liberal Currents is an entirely listener and subscriber-funded publication, which includes programs like Half the Answer and Neon Liberalism. So, if you like what you've heard and wish to contribute, you may do so at liberalcurrents.com and through Patreon. And remember, understanding a question is half the answer.